Well, basketball season's over. The transfer portal is running full throttle for the next couple of weeks. Spring practice is wrapping up all across the country. Then we'll have that little lull. And then pretty soon it'll be time for media days. SEC media days, Big Ten media days, so on and so forth. Fall camp. And then the season will be here week 0 before we know it. But here's what we have to live with, at least in the South. The knowledge and the truth that the Big Ten is the alpha of conferences in college athletics, and not just in football. 3 straight college football playoff titles, of course, but now they're the alphas in men's basketball. Now they're the champions of women's basketball. The Big Ten has really positioned itself at the top of the mountain. There's still a Big Two. Make no mistake about it. There's a massive divide between the Big Ten, SEC, and everybody else. But the gap between the Big Ten and the SEC is starting to widen, at least on the place in the places that matter, and that being the fields and the courts. Man, Michigan's win over UConn, first Big Ten basketball title, men's basketball title since 2000. Whew. And it also has UCLA women winning the championship, beating South Carolina. Of course, Indiana has the football championship. Just really a wild time, man. How did the Big Ten get to this position of power? It's something we're going to ask Stewart Mandel of The Athletic in a few moments. He's going to come aboard. There's an excellent article on The Athletic right now, and it's his contention, and I'm 100% with him, that it's not just money. It's a lazy narrative to say, oh, well, when everybody started getting paid, then the SEC couldn't cheat anymore. Everybody was paying players before that. There were bag men everywhere. There were McDonald's bags or Subway, not Subway bags, but Chick-fil-A bags of cash going to recruits everywhere. And it wasn't just in the South. But something else has happened in that conference to spark this momentum. And it's hard to put your finger on just one thing. Primarily, it's the coaches. The Big Ten has nailed some coaching hires, and it's even had coaches more willing to accept this new world order of paying players, of revenue sharing, of transfer portal. Even Jim Harbaugh, who's now gone on to the NFL, he was fine with the portal 2, 3, 4 years ago. It's fine. It's fine. He knew that that would be a valuable tool for the right person in the right situation to build a winning program, is what it is. And sure enough, that's what Curt Cignetti did at Indiana. It's what Dusty May did at Michigan. Dusty May put together in 2 years a championship-winning roster, basically from nothing. It's so incredible. A starting 5 entirely of transfers, and not big-time dudes, but a guy from UAB, non-starters from UCLA and Illinois, which in and of itself is a whole other thing, transfers from within the same conference. The most outstanding player of the tournament, Elliot Godot, essentially a reject at North Carolina. They never could fully tap into his potential. Hubert Davis, God love his heart, he's now unemployed, could never tap into Elliot Godot's potential and have him manifest into the player we saw him become in the Final Four, and all during the tournament, really, and all during the season. Dusty May cracked that code. He was able to do that. And by virtue of that, Michigan won that first title in a long time, I think 1989. And the Big Ten became the first conference to have 3 different schools hold those titles: football, men's basketball, women's basketball. The SEC did it 2006, 2007. You had Florida football and men's basketball, and you had Tennessee women's basketball. But to have it spread out, doled out over 3 different schools is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And 2 of those schools have never won titles. Of course, Indiana had never won a football title. UCLA women have never won a championship. Well, we've got these breakthrough victories now. So what are we to make of this? What's the SEC to make of this? People all throughout the SEC footprint, how should they look at this? The SEC still had a good year in men's basketball. 10 teams into the tournament, the most of any conference. But for the first time in 9 years, the SEC does not have a champion in football, men's basketball, or women's basketball. First time in 9 years. It's incredible. It's incredible. And I'm starting to wonder maybe that the SEC is just not built for the postseason. 2-8 record in bowl games this past year does not include the two SEC versus SEC college football game or playoff games. Man, but that 2-8 record, worst in SEC history. And here's making things even worse. The SEC was favored in 7 of those 10 games. It's concerning. 3 years with no football championship for most conferences would be no big deal. It's heresy in Southeastern Conference land. And not even really competitive. Honestly, we knew that Indiana, the way they were looking throughout the playoff, were probably going to be in the championship. We knew that probably Miami or Ohio State would be the other team. Here's another startling fact. 25 years. It's been 25 years since the last time that the SEC did not compete for a title in football. 99 to 02. You had Virginia Tech and Miami of the old Big East. They were in the Big East. Oklahoma and Nebraska were in the Big 12. And Nick Saban was just starting off at LSU. Well, of course, he wins the title in 03 at LSU, and that kickstarts that incredible run that the SEC had of winning 13 titles in 17 years between 06 and 2022, something we'll never see again. But then that NIL era kicked in, and now we have revenue sharing, and everything's flipped on its head. Kinda. I mean, we have parity now. But the Big Ten has been able to figure out how to really leverage it and elevate itself. And it's more than just money. It's more than just money. It's a lot to get to. We're going to try to chop that up, figure out some more root causes, dive deeper into it on the other side. We got Stewart Mandel of The Athletic joining us. Stick around.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our FanStream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream, fanstreamsports.com.
Let's go.
Right now.
Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
So they're popping corks in the Big Ten yet again, and this time not for football. They've won 3 straight football championships, which is just unbelievable for people south of the Mason-Dixon line. But now they have a basketball championship. Oh, by the way, they have 2 basketball championships in the Big Ten. They have the men's and they have the women's, and also the number 1 ranked baseball team in America right now. How does this happen? How did the Big Ten get to the top of the mountain? It's got to be more than just money. People say, oh, well, they've got all these deep resources and huge alumni bases and so on. It's got to be more than that. I think it's more than that. I think our guest thinks it's more than that. He's the esteemed writer for The Athletic. And going to work on it here, Stewart. I'm getting you on. There you go, buddy. Stewart Mandel, The Athletic. Stewart, it's more than just money, right?
Yeah, I think it's too simplistic. I mean, obviously, in this day and age, you do need NIL, and the more of it, the better. But it's how you deploy it. And what struck me about the Big Ten, over the last 4 years, as NIL in the portal became the way to construct a roster, some coaches have embraced it. Some coaches have spent a lot of time complaining about it. And what I've generally found is the ones that complain about it don't win for very long. And so I look at Curt Cignetti, obviously, in football. I look at Dusty May in basketball. They never complained about it and in fact, embraced it. I mean, I think it's no secret at this point how well Curt Cignetti did in his evaluations in the portal and finding G6 guys who could play at a high level in the Big Ten. And man, Dusty May at Michigan in basketball basically just built a roster from scratch overnight and went to the national championship game. And did they have money? Yes, they did. But you know who else had money? Kentucky basketball, Florida State football. Like Miami spent a lot of money on football that finally paid off this year, but for many years did not. You got to hire the right coaches. I think amongst all the things that have changed in college sports, that has not.
That makes a lot of people uncomfortable. I'm thinking about North Carolina, what they're currently going through with basketball, and finally breaking away from the Dean Smith coaching tree. And it was of my opinion, Stewart, I would like to get your thoughts on this as well, that separating from Hubert Davis was inevitable. That it was part of an overarching plan to modernize the athletic department, bring it into the 21st century, and start doing things differently than the way that they've always done. You'd agree or disagree with that?
Yes, and I'm not I don't follow the NBA that closely to know like how Malone is regarded and why he was so coveted by UNC. I'm not going to try to compare him to Bill Belichick. They're different sports, but in general, like just like there wasn't a great track record of NFL coaches succeeding in college, it's the same with the NBA. And I think UNC, we'll see how that pans out. But the mistake I think in this day and age is to hire coaches based on the old way of thinking, right? Bill Belichick, amazing NFL coach, great, defensive coach in particular, right? Not all of them. The main thing that matters to me at this point, I would not, if I were a major program in either sport, I would not hire somebody who hasn't been a head coach in college because they have no idea what it takes with the portal, with NIL. It's a completely different game. The rules of how you evaluate a coach prior to a couple of years ago have completely changed.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the ACC in basketball had a little bit of an uptick, maybe a renaissance of sorts, because it did have a new wave of coaches who are thinking more like the modern coach has to think. I'm wondering this, Stewart, going back to the SEC, going back to football, there's been some changes. We've got Alex Golish, we've got Silverfield, we've got just John Summerall at Florida. Should people in the SEC be encouraged by having this new blood and assuming that they will embrace this new methodology, this new world order?
I mean, six new coaches in one offseason is a lot,
Yeah.
But nobody's embraced it more than Lane Kiffin, and we'll see how that pans out. But he is certainly nobody could say he hasn't embraced the new way. And in fact, I think that's a big reason why Ole Miss, he was able to elevate Ole Miss in the SEC the last few years, because it was kind of the polar opposite of Brian Kelly going out there and saying, "Oh, we don't go on the market and buy players here. What are you talking about?" Right? Nick Saban retired rather than having to deal with players making money. So I think you're right. There's a generational change going on there. I don't know, which of those guys, whether it's Summerall, I'm very high on Summerall, but whether it's him, whether it's Golish, whether it's Silverfield, whether it's Will Stein in Kentucky, like which of these guys will be the successes and which will not. But I think it's a necessary change in the SEC because the days of, the pre-portal era of building your team entirely with high school kids was just an amazing setup for the SEC because they had by far the most high school talent in their backyard. And that advantage has really been minimized by the portal.
Did we take for granted not only the greatness of Nick Saban, but the stability of Nick Saban? Because it seems to me that we just got used to him every year going to achieve great things, but we didn't really realize how he was dragging the rest of the conference maybe along with him. And once he was gone, things got kind of spastic.
It's unbelievable. I mean, there's no other way to have the level of consistency they had. Are they going to go 11-1 this year or 12-0, right? And to do it year after year after year means you can't have a recruiting class you miss. Most people at some point are going to miss on a recruiting class. He did not. His staff constantly changed over from year to year to year. He just plugged in the right guys and kept going. Don't know that we'll ever see anything like that again. It's funny. I think to your point, I think the Big Ten and SEC have flipped roles where the SEC for years and years, people would say, well, they've got Alabama and they've got Georgia and everybody else is riding their coattails, right? It wasn't always Georgia. It was Florida before that too. But like everybody in SEC kind of gets this holy status around them because of what the teams at the top are doing. And so now when people say the Big Ten is past the SEC, I think that's right, but it's Ohio State, it's Oregon, it's Indiana now, Michigan up until the last couple of years. I don't know that has suddenly necessarily means that Minnesota and Northwestern and all these programs are suddenly great. And you can see that kind of in some of the analytics data out there.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say Purdue is going to be Vanderbilt In what world did we ever live in where we would think of Vanderbilt and was a football? Anyway, I'm chasing rabbits, Stewart. I know we've got a finite amount of time. My last question for you is this. One of the hot topics is what's going to happen to the college football playoff. One of the bigger topics in recent months has been the Southeastern Conference, or I guess the past year, expanding to 9 conference games, but putting in a mandate that league members had to play at least one non-conference Power 4 opponent. Are we going to see them regret that? Because to my knowledge, and you're the expert, no 8-4 team has ever made the college football playoff. Are we going to see them regret doing that and pivot, or are we going to see an 8-4 team make the playoff?
Well, no 9-3 team has even made the playoff. And, the fact of the matter is it's just math, right? Half those teams are going to get another loss. And you are going to see teams that are 9-3 that in the past would have just kind of been automatically dismissed, who will make the case. People may roll their eyes at this, that they're better than the 11-1 Big 12 team or the 11-1 ACC team. And it's a kind of unfortunate timing for this to be happening, right? You think back to a year ago and the SEC was on this warpath. They were handing out flyer, all this stuff about how great their schedules are, the toughest schedules in America, and how their teams deserve the benefit of the doubt. And I just don't think people are going to buy that now after what happened in the postseason last year. It's possible they'll regret it, but at the end of the day, like there's only going to be, we came one team away from having a 9-3 Alabama team in the playoff 2 years ago. Texas finished, went 9-3 last year with the loss to Ohio State, finished above several 10-2 teams, right? So there's only going to be so many 10-2 teams when you get to the end of the season this year. And it seems inevitable to me a 9-3 team will get in, and it'll probably be from the SEC.
One last question. So I guess I lied. Are you then maybe saying the Big Ten is a winner of sorts in all this, in that it did not mandate that Power 4 requirement? Was that an expectation from the SEC when they said that it was necessary? They thought the Big Ten would do it as well, but they didn't?
Maybe. It's interesting that the ACC and the Big 12 have done it too, right? The Big Ten's the only holdout. And you know what? It's easy to see why. Those 3 straight national championships, all 3 of those teams did not play a Power 4 non-conference opponent. And obviously it didn't hurt them at all. So I don't think they're feeling a rush to make that change. The Big Ten got what they wanted. I was at their media day last summer, and it was clear like there had been some talking points distributed to the coaches. And a big one was how unfair it was that they played an extra conference game. The SEC did not. The SEC finally made that change. It was weird to me because I didn't feel like the Big Ten was suffering at all with the selection committee. But now, they're definitely going to be on more equal terms.
Stewart, before we let you go, what are you working on?
I just had a story. I'm a big softball guy, and I just had a story go up this week that you can find on The Athletic about Kalen DeBoer. His daughter was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year for Washington softball last year. And it was interesting to me how he has managed to fit in the hours and the pace of an SEC football coach while also finding time to jet out to Seattle or Palm Springs or wherever the Huskies are playing, Iowa, to try to catch as many of her games as possible. So a story basically about his life as a softball dad.
Do you think the people in Alabama are maybe a little anxious about that? They want their coach in the building 24/7.
Yeah, possibly. Right. But in February, it's a dead period, right? There's not recruits coming to Tuscaloosa in February when he's making a lot of those trips. He's pretty smart about it. And as he said, I still get a lot done on the plane at the texting people from the game. He's there for the practices, if nothing else, he didn't miss any spring practices.
Yeah. It's not like you freeze out on the back nine working on his short game or something.
Right.
So Stewart Mandel, you're the best, brother. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Stewart Mandel, The Athletic. His knowledge is unassailable. His perspective, outstanding. But yeah, I'm going to lean into something that I brought up with Stewart, though, about Nick Saban, just how much stability he brought to the conference and how he was such an instrumental force in elevating the entire conference. If just the perception alone. And it's no coincidence that he steps away, all this happens. Make of that what you will. But if you're in places like Florida, Auburn, Kentucky, even Arkansas, and I know the Ryan Silverfield hire wasn't a home run, didn't get a lot of headlines, was actually condemned by a lot of people. You still have to be encouraged by this youth movement, for lack of a better phrase, with regards to these programs. Guys who understand the business of the sport now and what it takes to build a roster, what it takes to compete, what it takes to win championships. Now it's up to the institutions to give them what they need to cook. And that's tough. These administrators are having a hard time letting go of the student-athlete model as we've always known it. It no longer exists. It no longer exists. The athletic teams, we'll say football. We'll use football arbitrarily for this exercise. Football teams are no different than professional teams in that they are not representing cities, they're representing universities, but they are not necessarily what we would call student athletes. Okay? You think about places like Kentucky that have privatized their athletic departments. They've made it a for-profit entity. It's a separate corporation and all that to fund this program, which brings A, a lot of money to the school, and B, a lot of exposure. A lot of exposure. It's the biggest marketing tool they have. Athletics, the front porch to the program, the front door to the program, the living room, you name it. It's the most important part of getting kids to pay attention to their school. That might be the best way to frame it. And I apologize for the rambling. I've been a bit under the weather, but feeling better now. It's just a lot to think about. Want to thank Stewart Mandel for stopping by. Again, follow his work in The Athletic. It's absolutely outstanding. And he has his Wednesday mailbag, which is always a fun read. Thanks for stopping by this podcast. Do what you do for podcasts, like, subscribe, whatever. Please do it for this one. Hit me up with a comment below or hit me up directly on social media at Scott H Sports. The DMs are open. You can send me questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, whatever. Let me know. If there's a topic you would like me to discuss, happy to tackle it. If there's a guest you would like me to interview, I'll do my darndest to facilitate it. Otherwise, until next time, let's all take a deep breath. College basketball's over, but football's around the corner. Until next time.